I 17F have celiac disease. My new friend group thinks I'm anorexic and plan on having an intervention. A little background. My parents divorced when I was very young. My mom got me for most of the year, and my dad got me for the summer. I hated going to my dad's house, partially because he was very stubborn and rude and always had to do things his way, but also because every time I went to my dad's house, I got violently sick. Nausea, rashes, pain, muscle cramps. And then when I got older, I'd start missing my periods. I went to a doctor, but he said it was a psychosomatic problem related to stress and directed me to see a therapist. My dad didn't let me see a therapist because he thought it was total crap. My mom took me to one a few times, but by then my symptoms had cleared up, so we couldn't tell if it helped at all. One thing that really pissed me off was that my dad ate a lot of junk food and drank soda instead of water, and he mocked me mercilessly if I tried to eat healthy. I think it reminded him of my mom because she's always been a bit of a health nut. I would sneak carrots into the house, and if he found them, he'd throw them out. At my mom's house, I'd eat vegetables and organic chicken. Sometimes a food would make me feel sick, but I'd just stop eating that food and it was fine. I got into the habit of turning down any food offered to me because I didn't know if it was safe. I just explained it away as being a picky eater. And then, when I was 16, a new girl moved to my school. I became friends with her, and after a couple months, I noticed that she avoided all the same foods as me. I mentioned it in passing, like, "Hey, isn't that weird?" And she got concerned and told me that she had celiac disease and I should get myself checked. I got checked, and sure enough, I had it. Everything suddenly made sense. I was so excited to finally understand what was wrong that I told everybody I knew. I told all of the people who I thought were my friends, and they didn't really react well. They acted fine at first, but I noticed that they were all doing the slow fade on me. I confronted my closest friend about it, and she said that they all thought I was faking it for attention. They'd only heard about gluten-free diets as a stupid fad. I broke down crying and told her all about how horrible I felt when I had to go to my dad's house and how I couldn't believe that she didn't believe me, and she was horrified. She turned around and became my biggest supporter. She talked to the others, but they still thought I was full of shoot and feeding her lies, so we decided it was best to break it off with them. My birthday is in August, so I had 2 more summers with my dad left to go through after I found out he took the revelation about my disease even worse than my ex-friends. He would scream that I thought I was better than him and I was making up medical problems because I wanted to be special and that he wouldn't put up with that shoot. I offered to take him with me to the doctor, but he said that doctors are scam artists and he didn't believe anything they said. It was horrible. It got to the point where he started sabotaging my food and cursing at me when I got sick. So I've gotten pretty wary about telling people about the disease. Between my personal experiences and hearing people make fun of gluten-free food on TV and the internet, I've decided I'm not comfortable with telling new people. I know that's cowardly, but I'm so afraid of what people will think of me. This is my last summer with my dad, and it's the last summer with my dad. He can rot in hell for all I care. He treats me like shoot. I've only got to tough it out for another few weeks. That's not my problem. I can already hear your advice about leaving my dad's house or calling CPS. And respectfully, I've made my decision that it's easier just to stay for the next 3 weeks and then leave forever. Please don't focus on that part. This is the problem I need help with. My best friend and I have made a new group of friends. They're great people. Really fun. We play role-playing games every weekend. We've been hanging out since May. There's 10 or 11 of them, depending on whether you count this guy who doesn't regularly attend games. My best friend approached me yesterday and told me that the rest of the group has been talking behind my back. They've put together the fact that I constantly turn down food and that I'm very picky about what I eat, and that I've been getting thinner and acting sick because I've been living with my dad, and come to the conclusion that I have anorexia. They're planning on staging an intervention for me next weekend. Guys, I don't know what to do. This is such an awkward situation. I know I should tell them, but I'm so scared they're going to reject me. They've already got this idea in their heads about what's wrong. At this point, I'm afraid they'll think I'm just making excuses. And I've been burned before. I lost a ton of friends by telling them about my disease. Yeah, they were dicks, but it freaking hurt. How do I do this? How do I explain it so they'll believe me? I can't handle any more people calling me a liar. I'll have a mental breakdown. This disease has ruined my life in so many ways. I just wanted to have this one part of my life separate from that. Please, Reddit, give me advice. Now for the 6 days later update. Hey guys, thanks for all your help. The intervention was yesterday, and I figured you guys would want to know how everything went. A few hours before game started, one of my friends, let's call him Zach, texted me asking to come to his house. He hosts the games, early because he wanted to discuss gaming terms that will be nonsense to most of you. I figured this was probably the intervention, and texted my best friend. I think there was some confusion in the last post. This is the friend who was with my other friend group, who I poured my heart out to. Then she followed me to the new group. Let's call her Laura, to ask if she'd been invited too. She hadn't, so I asked her to come with me. Before I went to his house, I did something a little cheeky, inspired by one of the comments on the last post. Thanks/ooh, I'd have to charge. I went and picked up some gluten-free Chinese food from a place I frequent. They have this amazing vegetable fried rice that I've fallen in love with. They're really careful about cross-contamination. I've been eating there for years and never gotten sick. I brought the food with me to Zach's house, along with Laura and my notebooks and dice for role-playing. Zach seemed really taken aback that Laura was there. I asked him if he had a problem with it, because if we were going to talk about complicated gaming things, then she should be part of the conversation because of qualifications. He awkwardly said that it was fine. Then I said something like, "Is it all right if I eat something while we do this? I missed lunch and I'm really hungry," and pulled out the Chinese food. He said it was fine, but seemed kind of alarmed, like I was freaking him out. I started eating and he started his pitch. "I didn't actually call you here to talk about game crap. Me and some of the others have noticed some things recently that we're concerned about, and they elected me to talk to you about it." I said, "Okay." He listed off a bunch of things that I've been doing that made them worry about me. The way they never saw me eat anything, that I always seemed sick and was getting thinner. The fact that I always seemed uncomfortable and nervous when the topic of food came up, that I turned down everything offered to me, and then he finally dropped the bombshell. "Michael's older sister is anorexic, and she acts a lot like you do. We think you might be anorexic." I swallowed my food and tried not to look nervous. "I'm not," I told him. He started talking about how nobody thinks they're anorexic, but there's clearly something going on with me, and he started just rambling, so I cut him off. "I do have a problem. It's not anorexia. Can I talk?" He reluctantly agreed. I think he was afraid I was going to say that I was too fat, and my problem was that I needed to lose weight or something. Like, he really got committed to the idea that I was anorexic. I'm going to try to paraphrase what I said here, because I was very proud of myself for it. I know I'm losing weight in an unhealthy way, but it's not on purpose. I have a disease that means I can't eat grains like wheat, barley, and rye. When I do, I get very sick and my body starts ripping up my stomach and I can't digest much of anything, even things that don't have those grains in them. It's not just an allergy. It does serious long-term damage to me. If I ate a piece of bread, I would break out in rashes, I'd start throwing up, and I might get stuff that seems unrelated, like horrible muscle cramps. When I turn down food, it's because you guys offer me stuff like Doritos and PB&Js. If I ate that stuff, it would make me violently ill. I turn it down to keep from making my health problems even worse. And the reason my symptoms have been popping up and I've been getting sick and losing weight is that right now I'm living in a family situation where I'm forced to eat the foods that my body reacts badly to. When I first met you guys, I was living with my mom, and she accommodated me really well. But right now I'm living with my dad, and he sabotages my food because he thinks I'm making my disease up and that my doctor is a fraud. Zach took out actual note cards and looked through them. He literally had a script for the intervention. That's what I get for hanging out with the kind of dramatic people who play tabletop RPGs, I guess. He was quiet for a really long time. Then he had a few questions. 1. But then why do you turn down, like, Coke? Because Coke is nasty, but I didn't want to complain and make you guys buy root beer just for me. 2. Why didn't you just tell us this stuff? Laura took this one and explained what happened with our last friend group. 3. Okay, so like, what would I probably have in the house right now that you'd be willing to eat in front of me? I wanted to facepalm at this one. I asked if he was serious. He was, I don't know, have you got celery? He shook his head. Yogurt? Nope. An apple? Nope. Seriously? He nodded. Have you got some freaking popcorn? Like air-popped popcorn? That he did have. So I ate some popcorn in front of him, and he finally seemed to accept what I was saying. He awkwardly changed the subject to gaming things, and we talked about that until the rest of the group started to show up. When Michael got there, Zach took him aside and started talking to him in a way that I guess they thought was subtle. They kept looking over at me, and they weren't keeping their voices down very well. Michael asked if I seemed defensive, and Zach shrugged and said not really. I pointedly ate popcorn for the rest of the game. Michael texted me after the game and apologized for assuming that I was anorexic and asked what snacks they could put out for me. I actually cried a little bit. I was worried about getting kicked out, but they immediately moved to accommodating me. They're nice people, so everything worked out fine. Sorry for the anticlimax. Am I the idiot for confronting my ex-girlfriend about stealing my identity and getting threatened by her felon boyfriend? My ex and I broke up a little more than a year ago. We lived together for a couple of years, and I know she would have had access to my financial information. When we broke up, I moved out of the house we were renting, and I thought I had everything of mine. Back in February, when I was doing my taxes, I realized I could not find my folder with my previous year's tax returns anywhere. I assumed it got lost in the move and didn't think anything else of it. Last Friday, I got served for a lawsuit to the tune of over $5,000 for a defaulted credit card. When I went and actually pulled my credit, I saw that card had been defaulted since May, and there was another one which had been closed since June for about $2,500. Seeing as I had no knowledge about this, I immediately disputed both of the accounts on all three bureaus' websites. I was able to talk with someone for one of the cards, and they said it was opened in January, well, after I had moved out of my old house and the cards were sent there. I received the statements from the one card, and it was probably 80% Nordstrom Macy's, two of the stores my ex loved shopping at. Pretty sure she was the one who opened the accounts, probably used my social security number from the old tax returns. I called my ex about it, and she denied everything. Even when I told her that eventually, if she had anything shipped to the house using a stolen credit card, she's going to get found out. She flipped and started screaming at me, saying, I can't seriously accuse her of anything and to never talk to her again. About 20 minutes later, I get a call from a blocked number. It was her boyfriend threatening to make my life a living hell unless I stopped harassing her by claiming she stole my identity. He hung up, but I was shaken up about it. I can see he's got some serious felonies just by looking at the public records on the county website. I'm kind of stuck here. I'm opening myself up to retaliation if I go forward with anything from someone who has charges of aggravated arson and aggravated discharge of a firearm, in addition to a few battery charges. I can't just not do anything, though. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Now for some relevant comments. Commenter, copying this for every identity theft situation I see on here, since it seems to happen a lot, where you know who the person is who stole your identity. This is all information you can find in this sub and others. 1. Call the police. You're the victim of identity theft. Plain and simple. It doesn't matter who did it or what your relationship is to them. They broke the law. Now they have to face the consequences of their actions. 2. Freeze your credit. You want to make sure it doesn't happen again. Take the proactive route of freezing your credit. 3. Monitor and track your credit. You need to be alerted if anyone tries opening a line of credit in your name. This gives you a way to do it for free, and it shows your credit score. 4. Warn anyone else who might be a victim. This includes family members or anyone else whose social security number might be compromised by the thief. 5. Take the police report to the credit bureaus. Give them the report number when you dispute all of the accounts. Most of the time, that will be enough for them to take the accounts off of your credit. It's on the creditors themselves to prove the accounts are legitimately yours, and the bureaus aren't going to get in the middle of it. A police report goes a long way in clearing up your credit. Don't take identity theft lying down, even if it's someone close to you. If you let them get away with it, get ready for 5 to 10 years of bad credit, collection agencies coming after you, lawsuits, etc. For this specific case, you need to go to the police, like now. This guy seems like an incredibly violent person. I would get a restraining order as soon as possible. Does he know where you live? I also would not contact your ex at all about anything else. Let it all go through the court system. When asked how to get the police report to the credit companies, OP said, "I plan on calling the police. I was just kind of freaked out about the whole situation. How do I get the police report to the credit companies?" Commenter 2. File a police report for the fraud. Contact the lenders and provide the police report number and jurisdiction. Let the police/bank sort it out. Provide all that info to the lawyers that filed the suit and bring it all to court. Do not skip a court date. Now for the 1-month update. Update. I followed the advice in the comments and went to the police. Quick and painless process. I was in and out in maybe 30 minutes with a report number. I never received another call from my ex or her BF. I gave the report number to the credit card companies and the credit bureaus. I was told I didn't have to do anything else at that point, but to show up to the court date for the lawsuit. I learned through a mutual friend today that my ex was arrested this morning. Apparently, the county put out a warrant for her last week, pulled her over on the way to work. It looks like she was charged and released pretty quickly. Also, I learned my ex and the BF who threatened me are no longer together. I don't think I have to worry about him anymore. The court date for the lawsuit is later this month, but everything has already fallen off my report. My score has gone up probably 200 points. I'm still going to the court date just to make sure everything is good, but it's looking like all good news from here on out. Now for a few comments. Commenter 1. That's awesome news. Your story will also serve as inspiration for others to pursue justice when they've been wronged. Healing. Make sure you put a freeze on your SSN with all 3 credit bureaus if you haven't done so already. Am I the idiot for demanding my wife confess to planting evidence to prove her cheating conspiracy theory? Okay, this sounds insane, but I swear my wife is totally normal otherwise, which makes this so strange to me. For context, we're both in our later 30s and live in a pretty typical suburban neighborhood where we all know each other. My wife has always loved trashy movies and shows about infidelities, and she eats up true crime about spouses ending the life of their cheating partners too. She just says something about it makes her morbidly fascinated, in her words. Well, a couple months back, we had a scandal in our neighborhood where a married couple in the neighborhood divorced because the husband cheated. No, there wasn't an unalive or anything like that, but she became obsessed with learning every detail from every neighbor. No matter the occasion, be it a baby shower or cookout, she would bring it up, hoping there would be any new information. A month later is when I stumbled on the board in her home office. I was doing some cleaning and I found a massive bulletin board facing away, leaned up against the wall. Curiosity got the better of me, and I turned it around to find a literal conspiracy board of all our neighbors' pictures with lines of yarn connecting each other, like the Pepe Sylvia meme. I was totally confused and asked her what this was, and she told me it was a hobby she had started recently where she would track rumors or likely candidates for cheating on the board. The yarn represented who was possibly cheating with whom. She had clearly gotten all the images on Facebook or some social media and printed them out and even had a few sticky notes with details. I told her this was creepy and insane, And she said, maybe if I was doing it as a man, but she is just having harmless fun as a hobby, and she wouldn't be crazy and try to oust anyone based on rumors. She just likes feeling like a detective. She told me to view it like a creative art piece. I was still super weirded out, but let it go, or tried. I thought about it a lot. Well, every now and then I admit to checking the board when cleaning, but just a couple days ago, I looked to see that now I was on the board with a yarn attached to a neighbor's wife I am casual friends with. I asked her why she would add me if she thought I was cheating, and she said that was a different yarn color for potential matches. For cheating? She said if it makes me feel better, she was planning on adding herself to the board soon. Well, I got pissed and kind of lost my temper about it. I told her to get rid of the board or our marriage will be in trouble. Things have been super rocky since. Sorry for the long post. I am starting to feel bad and it hit me more than usual this morning. Should I apologize to her? And before you ask, no, I don't suspect her of cheating. Honestly, I wish she was, because it would at least make more sense than this. Am I the jerk? Now for the update. Anyway, Jesus Christ. Firstly, appreciate all of the concern and NTAs. It gave me the courage to approach her and tell her that while I may have overreacted by threatening our marriage, I think it is a creepy thing to do. She apologized and said she would get rid of the board. I thought we were good. Literally 2 days later, shoot hits the fan. Our happily married next-door neighbor finds a woman's bra under the bed that does not belong to her. It doesn't take long for the whole neighborhood to find out. Well, my wife is giddy, like jumping up and down for joy. She shows me the board, which she still didn't trash like she promised. And of course, the husband was marked with yarn, meaning he was likely to cheat. She told me the board was accurate after all, and maybe she should keep her hobby around. I was definitely suspicious, so I looked at the board again later. It looked different from the last time I saw it before the latest scandal. Instead of the yarn connecting to another neighbor, the cheating husband's yarn connected to a post-it with a question mark. Firstly, it was the only question mark there, and I swore it wasn't there last time I saw the board. So either she changed it after the cheating to prove a point, or slightly before it happened, which made me even more suspicious either way. Now I felt like I was the detective, and I was going crazy. I went over to the cheating husband's to ask a few questions. The wife was staying at her parents', so it was just the two of us. I asked him if he actually did it, and he said no, he would never. Then I asked if my wife had been over recently. He said one day while you were at work, his wife asked her to water a plant they had while they were both away and told her where the key was. So yes, I immediately raised an eyebrow. I asked if he still had the bra, and he was getting nervous and told me not to get the wrong idea. I said, don't worry, he still had the bra, and I looked at it. It was my wife's, but one I knew she almost never wore because it was from a lingerie set I bought her one Christmas she said was uncomfortable. I told my neighbor I needed to talk to my wife and ran out, but I told him not to worry. I approached her with the bra and asked her what was going on. She played stupid, but I told her to cut the BS. I asked if she had either cheated on me with him or planted it there. Either way, she was in trouble. She confessed to planting the bra and said it was to make me admit her hobby was valid or something. I flipped on her. I said this was worse than her cheating on me because instead of ruining just our marriage, she ruined our neighbors and ours. I demanded she call the wife and admit to everything, even sending pictures of the board. I even showed the Reddit post, which actually helped convince her my wife had planted it rather than cheated with her husband. Well, they made up, but now I have no idea what to do. I am barely speaking to my wife, and it is only a matter of time before the entire neighborhood figures this out. I seriously need advice. Now for a few comments. One commenter said, I honestly refuse to believe this is real. Your wife is actually nuts. This is insane behavior to have. Another commenter replied, I was thinking just the opposite. This one is so original it's got to be real. No AI is going to come up with this insanity that's left to humans.